I got my rear wheels and tires in. My wheels are 1510, and for the tires I went with a 275/60/15. That equals out to about a 28 by 10.5 if you're on run like a drag slick on it. I went with these tires because I'm going to try to drive this car on the road a little bit from time to time, and then I'll probably just play around the drag strip every once in a while with it. So I kind of got these, so maybe it'd be the best of both worlds for me. And if I decide later on I want some actual drag slicks, I'll get another set of wheels and I'll put drag slicks on them, and then run just a street tire on these wheels. But I didn't want to have to buy 2 sets of wheels and 2 tires to start with. So I'm just gonna start with these, see how they do. I may really like these and use nothing but these from now on. I don't know. Let me show you what this wheel looks like on my car, because it won't fit on the car with the tire on it until we do some modifications. All right, there's the wheel on the car, and if you get back here and look, you'll notice that the edge of the wheel actually sticks out past the fender. So I'm gonna have to take and radius my fenders for the wheel and the tire to fit in there. So here's what I done. Was that tire is 28 inches tall, so I measured out 32 inches, which will give me 4 inches all the way around the tire. And that's at full droop. Once I set the weight of this car down, I only have like 2 inches on top, which I don't know yet if that's enough. I'm gonna get both these tires mounted, and then I'll jump up and down in the trunk just to see if it hits the wheel well or not, because I don't know. I mean, if it doesn't hit it with me jumping up and down in there, it shouldn't ever hit it. But what I done was I measured 32 inches, then the center of that's 6, and I just centered this with the wheel. So basically, I went with 32 because that gets me to the outside of this lip here too, gets me to the flat part of the fender. So basically, I'm gonna start right here. I'll just hold my marker on this and I'll spin it. And I'll be able to mark where I need to cut by using this as a guide. And it should be fairly round. I mean, it probably won't be perfect. I've already done the other side, and this is the way I done it, and it turned out all right. So I'm gonna continue on this. And this is with the suspension raised all the way up. So later, if I decide to lower the rear, I'll just have to redo this and cut a little bit more out. Probably cut a little bit more out of the upper. I don't know. I can't go too much farther to the front because of where the wheel well is. I'm pretty much cutting against the front of the wheel well, and I'll be pretty tight to the back of the wheel well on this side. On the other side, it's got that funny wheel well because it's got the fuel neck in it, so it didn't really mess with that one too much. Anyways, I'm gonna take my Sharpie and I'll mark this out just by running it across here, and we'll go from there. On this front section, I can't continue with that radius because it'll be into basically inside of the body there. It'll be in the cab of the car, I guess you'd say. So what I want to do is, I got a straight edge, and I'm just gonna hook right here on the back of this body seam and come straight up to there, and that gets me basically flush with the front of the wheel well. I don't want to go any farther than that, because if I start going farther than that, I might as well just tub it. And if I'm gonna tub it, why would I cut this out? I've just got a narrow rear end and put my wheels on the inside, and some people say that would look better. I'm not really gonna argue with them. I feel like I'm trying to take the easier route rather than cutting the inside of the tubs out and going through all that work to make them fit. So on this, I'll just have to kind of try to make that blend a little bit. Like I said, I've already done the other side. It doesn't look too bad. It kind of just comes straight up the inside of the wheel well to right here and starts curving around. It doesn't look any different. Like if you look at this original wheel well, it curves around then kind of straightens out right there. So it's really not that much different than the original wheel well. So it's not super noticeable, but I could tell it's there, and you'll probably be able to tell it's there now that I've kind of pointed that out. I will note that when I clamped this on, I clamped it on for the height. Then I centered this, actually centered it in the wheel. So this should be fairly, the radius should be fairly centered with the axle. So just in case you're wondering how I come up with this idea. I've seen people use like string lines and just different methods of doing it. My wheel sticks out about even with the fender. So I felt like this was the easiest way for me to do it, honestly. And it seems to work out all right just for marking it. I mean, my marks aren't perfect, but my cuts won't be either. So basically cut this out. I'm just gonna use a cutting disc and I'll just go around the outside, cut this outside panel off with this. I mean, if you just go in just a little bit, you can make your turn and it doesn't look too bad. Then once I get the outside cut, I'll kind of pry it out. I'll probably cut around here and then cut this so I can cut most of this section just out of the way. And the inside panel, I cut with the Sawzall. I'll just stick a blade in there and just try to work my way around. The only bad thing about using the Sawzall is if your blade hits this outside panel, it'll kind of mess it up a little bit, which I did a couple times on the other side, and I just took a hammer and dolly and flattened it back out, but it will ding it pretty bad or try to make it jagged looking. But that's the way I'm gonna do it. I'll probably show all that and fast forward, so you're not just sitting here watching me grind for the next 20 minutes. Also, before I start, everybody's gonna be like, oh, you're running it, you're cutting the fenders up, you're tearing it up. This is already pretty rusty right here. I don't know if you can see the bubbling through the camera, but from like here back, this is nothing but fiberglass and Bondo. I mean, this thing, I don't know if it's been hit or it's just rusted out, but this back corner is horrible. The other side, it just had a little rust and Bondo right here. It wasn't too bad. That side actually wasn't that bad, but this side's, it's in pretty rough shape, so I'm not gonna cry about cutting it up. Well, that's what it came out like. I got a little too deep on the front of this. I went a little farther than I wanted to. I'll figure that out. I'll figure out a way to patch it. I've got to figure it out on the other side too, because I've got a little gap here where my rockers are that I might maybe tack weld some little pieces of metal in. And then I've got to figure out how I'm going to make this sturdier, because it's now broke loose from the inside panel and it flops. So I got to figure that out, but I'm not going to probably do anything with that until I get the full weight of the car on there. I jump up and down, make sure it's not rubbing. I may actually take it and drive it a little bit, make sure that this isn't rubbing the tire, because if it's rubbing the tire, I'm gonna have to cut more out. So I don't want to get too carried away with trying to fix what I've got until I know that it's gonna clear everything. But now we can put the wheels and tires on it and see what it looks like sitting on the ground. So one thing I can say about these tires is they're very easy to mount. Of course, I'm used to mounting off-road tires, big tires. Car tires aren't really, never really been my thing. But when I mounted the other one, I was like, man, this thing went on easy. Yeah, most tires I mount, you can never push the back bead on. So this is awesome. I should have just got it in cars when I was younger instead of Jeeps and trucks and stuff, because this is fairly easy to mount, I can tell you that. I went ahead and did a little with some white paint to cover up all the little, I guess the spots where it burnt the paint off the fender. Anyways, let's get this tire on there, see what it looks like. Man, the tires look big on this little car. I mean, they'd probably look bigger if they was sucked in with the narrowed axle, but as you can see, I don't know if you can see. As you can see, I got plenty of room between the tire and the inner fender. I don't think we ever gonna have to worry about that rubbing. These wheels have got like a 3 3/4 backspace, and I think is what they are. So they kind of stick out a little bit anyways. But yeah, we got plenty of room. I just wanted to lift it up and see what it looked like from the back. Now I'm gonna set it on the ground. We'll see what it looks like sitting on the ground. Kind of hard to see what it looks like when it's so cluttered in the shop. I want to get it outside one day in the sunlight and just see how it sets, but as you can see, the tires, they stick out a little bit in the back. It's not crazy. It's not a crazy amount. I mean, looking at a couple inches, they stick out. But I don't think it turned out too bad. Like I said, I'll pop the trunk and I'll physically just jump up and down in the back of that thing and see if I can make it hit the tire on the top. If it doesn't, I'm gonna roll with it for now. I don't know how much more, like actually if launching the car is gonna push down on the back of it or whatever, but we'll figure it out eventually if they're gonna rub. I mean, if they rub, we'll know eventually, hey, that tire rubbed. But yeah, with the skinny tires up front, it really makes those tires look wide. I was gonna go with a 275/50, which is like a 26-inch tall tire, because I really feel like no more motor than I've got. A 26-inch tall tire would probably do it. But this front set's so high, I decided to go with the 28 just to kind of, you know, equal it out just a little bit. The next thing I want to do is get the motor sitting in the car. I've got most of the parts for the engine now, and my dad's supposed to come over and help me put it together, so I don't know that I'll film very much of that, but I may just show you the parts that I've got that's going on the motor, kind of tell you what the motor is and what parts are going on it. And just give you a clue of what I've got going into this car. But with the motor I'm putting in it, with the combination of stuff I'm putting in, I'm hoping, I'd like to hit a 12-second pass, really. is what I'd like to get out of it. I don't know. That might be kind of a hard goal to hit, and it may hit it right off the bat, but that's what I'm gonna shoot for. I think it's gonna matter what, how well the motor runs and what gearing I put in it. And I haven't decided on the gearing yet. Been kind of going back and forth on how low I want to make it, honestly, because I do want to drive it on the road, and I'm probably going to end up putting a spool in the back, which is going to make it harder to drive on the road, especially with lower gears. My motor is actually a pretty mild motor. It's a stock 350 crank, stock 350 rods, with flat top pistons, and it's bored 60 over. So other than the 60 over and the flat top pistons, it's basically a stock 350. Let me show you what I got for heads and cam and intake and everything. For the heads, I did kind of splurge. I've got the big valves with the heart-shaped combustion chamber. I think it is a 64cc combustion chamber with a 202 160. These are basically the NKB heads from Skip White. And for the cam, I went with the comp cams. This is the XE274, and it's a hydraulic lifter cam. Like I said, I'm not gonna be producing crazy horsepower with that cam. It's only rated to I think the power band stops at 6,000 or 6,500. The intake's kind of an older intake, and these were really good intakes, 30, 40 years ago probably. This is a Wyand 7546. It's just a single plane intake, a little probably mid-rise. It's not like a really high rise, but I haven't decided what I'm gonna run for a carburetor on it yet, and this is pretty much a starter intake. I would like to have a better intake to go with my heads, because I feel like if I can get the more airflow I can get to that little motor, the better it's gonna run. But hopefully next time you see that, I've got on a cherry picker, about to put it in the car. I finished putting the motor together last night. Now my plan is to pick it up with this cherry picker, go ahead and get the flywheel bolted onto the back of it. Then I'm gonna wheel it around here to the other side of the shop. I've got my transmission sitting on that table. I'm gonna go ahead and bolt my transmission to it. Then I'm gonna kind of try to slide it into the frame there. Hopefully it goes in easy. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little nervous about this engine plate. I've never used one before. Usually put chains on the intake bolts. But I'm gonna try this. The plate says it'll hold 1,000 pounds. I don't think aluminum intake will hold 1,000 pounds. Could be wrong, but hopefully it doesn't break the intake. It's the first time that motor's been off that stand in 20 years. So I'm gonna get the flex plate bolted to it, and we'll try wheeling it around to the other side there. Okay, I got those things torqued down to 65 foot-pounds, and what I had to do to torque them was I took on the dowel of the motor, I took a screwdriver and held the flex plate there. Then I was able to tighten it, to actually get it tightened down to 65. I'm gonna try to wheel this thing around to the other side of the car without tearing a bunch of stuff up in the shop. Get that over there, and we'll get the transmission bolted to it and the torque converter bolted to this. Then we should be ready to stab it in the car here. Had to pull that back apart because I forgot to tap the hose. I'm gonna put a little blue Loctite on these and torque them all down. Then we'll move on to the converter. think what I'm gonna do on torque converter is just roll the motor around, get all the bolts started in there. I've already got this one because it's right there, easy to get to. Just roll it over, put all the bolts in there, and then roll it over, tighten them one at a time. I don't know if that's the correct way, but that's the way I'm going to do it. Okay, got all that bolted together. Got these hockey puck looking things sitting on here. So now I'm gonna try just slide it in there easy. A little nervous about the engine plate thing. I don't know, I'm thinking when I jack it up, it's just gonna go like that. So that may actually help me, I don't know. I've got a floor jack over there to hit the transmission once it gets under there. So all I know to do now is just jack it up and see what it does. Here goes nothing. Okay, I think now I'm gonna go ahead and put the jacker in the transmission, see if I can jack it up a little bit, level this thing out. Hopefully it works out. Just put a piece of plywood on top of this jack so maybe I can get up underneath the pan. All right, I got the motor in. That actually went way easier than I thought it would go. The transmission is barely sitting on the jack right now, and I have no way to reposition it because I don't have another jack. So that's a bit sketchy. But all I have left to do is get the transmission mount on it. I'm gonna crawl under there to get the transmission mount on it. I don't think there's any use in me taking the camera under there because I don't know where I'd put it to make it to where you can see me actually doing the work. So when you see me again, the transmission mount will be on. It's like magic. All right, the motor and transmission's in it. I think I'm gonna end the video on this note here. I will say when I put the motor in it, I measured off this front cross brace right here, and it went down an inch. So the weight of the motor and transmission did bring it down an inch. I like the way it's sitting right now. I may play with it a little bit. I may take the bottom leaf of the leaf spring off on each side just to see if I can get a little bit more bounce out of it. It's pretty stiff right now. And when it comes to race cars, I don't know if should they be stiff or should they have some spring to them. I don't know yet. I'm really just kind of looking for aesthetics at this point, I think. After that, I'll figure out what works and what doesn't work. But yeah, motor's in it, transmission's in it. We're one step closer. Can't wait to hear it run. Next video, I'll probably just be bolting stuff on it. I mean, I still need to get a water pump, and I've got an alternator bracket and alternator. I believe everything will work on that. Just bolting stuff on it. I would like to start working on the brakes and brakes, plumbing, wiring. I don't know, just I'm gonna do what I can on it with what I've got as I get it. Appreciate everybody that watches, appreciate the comments, the likes. Thanks for watching.